Spirits. Some say they are all around us. Some say they inhabit the trees, the sky, the rocks, the water, and some say these spirits can be contacted, and some even believe that some of these spirits are open for you to become their host and gain some of their powers. So let's look into the ultimate guide on spiritual entities and the power of animism, Journey of the Spiritwalker. Hi there fellow role players and game masters, my name is Mr. Tarask and this is still your go-to YouTube channel for everything third-party Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition related. I do reviews, previews, flip-throughs, whatever you want, I got it on my channel. And if you want to help spread the word on awesome 5th edition third-party content from all around the globe, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It is a really powerful tool in helping the community grow and helping these creators to sell their products to the right people, because that is my mission. So make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit me up with a comment. And today I want to talk about Journey of the Spiritwalker. Journey of the Spiritwalker is a Dungeon Masters Guild product, and it is actually a book in a series called The Aaron Chronicles, and it calls itself the ultimate compendium on spiritual entities and the powers of animism for the world's greatest role-playing game. Yes, that's a mouthful. It is a 159 pages thick book. PDF on the Dungeon Masters Guild that will set you back. Normally it is 24 or 25 bucks or something like that, but I saw it's actually in discount, so it's about 19 or 20 bucks at this point. So if you want to pick it up as a discount, make sure to check it out. So what is it? Journey of the Spiritwalker jumped out first of all because of its artwork. The level of artwork in Dungeon Masters Guild products the last year it's just growing in quality so fast. Like, I don't know where they're finding this artwork, but it is absolutely brilliant. Here are all the artists, by the way, so you know where they found the artwork. But it is, some of this artwork in here is just like, look at this. This is like, wow. Right? I don't know where to find this. It's probably not even drawn for D&D or something. It's just for some other purpose, but they use it in this book, and it's so, well, it's just amazing content. It's amazing art. So, Journey of the Spiritwalker is a book about a subject that I never really used in my games much, but I know some players that are really into this kind of stuff, and it is all about spiritualism or animism, whatever you want to call it. And the book actually gives you a few options, not a few options, it gives you options on how to use that into your game, and it is very hard to explain. They talk about, there's actually a few chapters in this book. First of all, there is, there is the spiritual entities. So they talk about what spirits are, how they are in the world, what they do, how they behave. There's evil spirits, there's good spirits, there's neutral spirits, all that stuff. They talk about spiritual attunement. So you can actually attune to a spirit if you want that, if the spirit wants it. And if you want, you can attune to the spirit and you can gain some of its powers, but it only works if the spirit is friendly, of course. Then they talk about the types of spirits, and it's really cool that they split this up. There's primal spirits, there's ancestral spirits, there is sorry, I have to zoom it, Ethereal spirits, outsider spirits, and then there is magic. There's a bunch of new spells. There's spiritual binding, and there are character options. And there are, if you look into the index, there are actually magic items. So there is a bunch of stuff. There are new magic items. There are ways to bind to a spirit, to attune to a spirit. There's new character options. There is a list of spells on page 123, as you can see. It is a big thing. For 20 bucks, the value in here is really, really, really good. And before I go into some of the things that I really like about this book, that I think are really cool, I want to show you one thing already. I want to jump very quickly to, let's say, the Ember Spirit right here on page 22. I'm just going to jump there because I'm going to do something, I'm going to show you something. There is a QR code right here, right? So let's say your players are working with this Ember Spirit, which does a lot of stuff for your players. So there is a QR code right here, and as you can see, I got my cell phone, and I will just scan it live here. Oh, I did something wrong. I will just scan it. And if you scan the QR, which should work, you are actually brought to a web page which has music, and they have music for every spirit type in this book. This is the Ember Spirit. So your players are, I don't know, they are trying to become the host for the spirit and gaining its powers. They summoned this spirit. They are talking, communicating with this spirit. It's very cool that you then can just pick this music and just play it in the background while all of that is happening. All of this music has like this weird touch to it, like this. Sometimes it's a bit out of tune or out of rhythm or whatever, but it sounds super cool if you put this on your television or on your sound system while your players are doing something with that spirit. I really, really like it, and I got like an entire list on SoundCloud right here. So I just think that's a really cool extra for you as a dungeon master to work with. You can just have it ready next to you, the music, and whenever they're working with the spirit or doing whatever they want to do with the spirit, they are actually, you can play that music, and I really, really, really like that. But let's talk about the spirits themselves. There's a bunch of spirits in this book, spirit types in this book actually, and one of them are the Ancestral. I want to talk about 2 spirit types just to show you a bit like how it works and what you can expect. So there is the Ancestral spirit type, as you can see, a really cool piece of artwork on the cover right here, and it actually has a bunch of rules and a complete system to it that you can use in order to tap into the spirit's power and actually become the host of a spirit like this. So they talk about what ancestral spirits are, but in short, they are people who died and weren't really allowed into the realm of the death, and they're now somewhere in between. So they're like spirits or specters or whatever you want to call them, and they all have a few things in common. First of all, they have a soul anchor. There are 2 ways of summoning an ancestral spirit. First of all, there is the summon ancestral spirit spell. Easy, right? A bard, cleric, sorcerer, warlock, or wizard can add this to their spell book or whatever, to their spell list, and they can cast it, and that way they can summon this ancestral spirit. Now they need to be on the right spot on the right time in order to do that, but they can do that. There's also the Ghostbusters way, which is the soul anchor, and this takes a lot of investigation. First of all, you go to the place where supernatural things are happening, and you're investigating what is happening. You're trying to make ends meet and see what kind of spirit is roaming that area, and then you try to figure out its soul anchor, which is basically a place, an item, or a person it is tied to, and the spirit will always be like around this, like if maybe it's like a little music box that belonged to the spirit's daughter or something like that, and they're now bound to that little music box, and every time you are near that music box, all kinds of weird stuff happens, and you know the spirit is there, and there's all kinds of checks you can do in order to see what kind of spirit it is and what its powers maybe are. But if you then are able to summon it by the spell or by the other way with the investigation checks and all of that stuff, you are actually you're able to talk to them and kind of communicate with them, because they kind of show up in front of you, right? And there's a bunch of things here you can use in order for their soul anchor to be a location, an object, or a creature. There's a bunch of examples there, and they talk about how you can become the host of one of these spirits. Now, you can become the host of one of these spirits and gain extra powers. But if you did something to piss off this spirit, the spirit might want to possess you, which is not a good thing, because you completely lose track of your limbs and your arms, and you can do nothing because the spirit will now control your body, and you become the host of the spirit, but the spirit has the final say in everything. But if you become the host of the spirit on a friendly way, you have like the pact where you say, yes, if you give me these powers, I will help you do that, and the spirit has a mission and you have a mission, and you both gain from it, because the spirit now has a body, because once the spirit has a host, they can actually leave their soul anchor. So if the soul anchor is a location, let's say if it's a graveyard, they can actually leave that when they're inside their host. So there's a bunch of rules for that. The artwork is just, it's really cool. And once you become the host of one of these spirits, here are a bunch of spirits right here. There is the acolyte spirit. There is no, these are the backgrounds. Sorry. You can choose a background, or the spirit has a background. The dungeon master kinda, it's at the dungeon master's discretion, like everything is, and you already gain like 1 power. First of all, for example, if he was a hermit, once per short rest you may gain advantage on a wisdom or intelligence check. In addition, you gain the benefit from the background feature discovery. So you already gain something when you become the host from their background, which is cool, of course. And then you have a list of spirits, and they actually use the classes in the player's handbook to create these spirits. So they used to be an artificer, they used to be a let's say they used to be a barbarian. This one is really cool. Look at this artwork right here. So the barbarian spirit, and all of these have a stat block to them, because if they're pissed off, they can attack you. You could be fighting this guy, which you don't want to do. You want to become its host. If they ask you friendly, can I be your host? Yes, you can be my host. Don't attack me, because he looks really cool. This art is so... it's ridiculously cool. So they have stat blocks for all these spirits in here. Like the amount of content, the value you get from this PDF, it's ridiculous. For 20 bucks, you get all these spirit stat blocks, you get all these rules for becoming the host of a spirit. And then, so the first power you get at level 1 is recalling memories. The second, for example, is as you dominate the battlefield, the barbarian spirit's rage roars within you. When you reduce a creature to 0 hit points, you can use your reaction to make an extra attack against the target within your reach. And then every time you level, you actually become stronger, because you get more powers from your spirit. You're the spirit that is actually inside of you. You're the host. The spirit is inside of you. There is spirits for each class, as you can see. There's this bard, it's very beautiful, with violin. Yes, a violin. Super cool spirit. And I didn't see any rule that said if you are a bard, you need to take the bard spirit. If you are a fighter, you need to take fighter spirit. No, you can be a cleric who takes the fighter spirit, for all I see. Maybe some of the stuff will not be really good with each other, or whatever, will not be compatible, but in theory it is possible you do that. Let's see, the bard spirit stat block. Look at the stat block. Oh, the stat block alone, it's just so big. There's so much. And there's actually challenge 11, 3, 5, 7, and 9. So there's all kinds of versions of this. You can scale it up, you can scale it down, you can do whatever you want. There is the cleric spirits, which is again really cool. Look at this. This is elf dude, I think, with a mace, armor, and gigantic shield. Man, this is just cool. There is the druid spirit. That's the way it works. So there is a spirit, you talk to them, if you piss them off, which you don't want to do, you get this stat block in front of you and you'll probably be fighting them. But if you become their friend or their ally, they can become you can become their host, and you gain powers according to what they did in their previous life. And just to show you that they put a lot of thought into this book, into this module, I want to show you the primal spirits, which is another kind of spirits. I think there's 4 or 5 different kind of spirits, and they all work differently. Well, in essence, it's all about becoming the host and gaining powers from spirits by communicating with them, by finding them and everything, but all of them work in a different way. The primal spirits, by the way, they are spirits, and I really like the background on this. This is basically, they come from the elements themselves, and sometimes they don't exist until a certain area of the world, let's say a forest, is being endangered by some big bad thing. It's coming, and this spirit basically becomes stronger the bigger the threat is, and when the threat is really, really big, this spirit grows to be like the biggest thing it can be. And it's up to the characters to either do the summoning spell, the summon primal spirit spell. It's the same thing for the other type of spirits, but there's also the spiritual intonation, which is really cool. This is where the music comes in, by the way. There are these spirits, and all of these have a different melody. And if you are not, if you cannot cast spells, for some reason you are a class that cannot cast spell, and in your party there's not a class that can cast any spell, or you as a dungeon master decide that casting a spell is just not good enough for people to summon a spirit, this is the other way to do it, and your character needs to play or sing or hum or whatever this melody, the right melody. If they want to do a woodland intonation, they need to do that kind of melody in order to summon that kind of spirit, but they need to be, of course, in the right place at the right time. Again, there's a lot more to it than what I'm explaining, but I'm leaving that up to you to read. So they can play or hum this melody or do whatever in order to summon it, but they need to find that melody, they need to know that melody, they need to investigate how to do it, and then they need to succeed on a performance check, and they must be proficient in charisma performance in order to be even able to do that. So let's say you are a fighter who wants to summon the Ember Spirit or whatever, for whatever reason. You need to figure out what the Ember melody is, and then you need to succeed on a performance check, play your violin or your lute or sing a beautiful song or whatever in order to summon this spirit. And after that, it kind of works in the same way, but also completely different. So you become the host of this primal spirit, and again, this all gives you a bunch of power. So let's go to the, we've already covered the Ember Spirit, which is cool, right? There's the Ember. This one, the Meadow Spirit. Really cool artwork. Again, it has its own music. It's in the QR code top right, but it has a bunch of powers you get. So you are the host powers, plant the seeds, you are a veil of flowers, all that stuff. Once per long rest, you're putting your palm in the soil. As an action, a flourishing bush rapidly grows in an unoccupied space adjacent to you, which gifts you with rich fruits that resemble something I cannot pronounce. The number of fruits conjured in the way are equal to the Meadow Spirit's level, and each fruit gives like 1d10. So you can basically heal people with you can cast Goodberry Bush in front of people, but in a different way. That's basically what it does. But it gives you a bunch of powers from this Meadow Spirit, but it also gives you a power, and it's for all of the primal spirits, by the way, the Meadow Incarnation. And you can do this, you can actually cast the spirits to fight beside you for, if I'm not mistaken, 1 minute. So it actually becomes, they leave your body and become, let's say, we use this artwork in order to represent them. They become this own thing with its own stat block, and they have the initiative right after you, and they will help you fight your fight, or they will help you with whatever you need them to help you with. And after they drop to 0 hit points, or the minute is over, they go back and they are back into your body. So you get these powers, and there's less powers than with the other spirits, but you also get the power to actually summon your spirit, or like an embodiment of your spirits onto the battlefield or onto whatever place you want them to help you out. There is the Fighter Forms Adept. While other fighters gain their martial powers from perfecting traditional combat techniques and tactics of warfare, the archetypical form adept seeks to emulate the wisdom of nature, and there's an entire thing, and there's actually, I really like this. First of all, the artwork is so cool. I think this is so cool. Like this, there's this woman, she's clad all in greenish cloth and leather, and she has this really cool spear, and I absolutely love spears. I think they're the coolest weapon, although they're not the best weapon. They're really cool. And as you can see, there's actually a few stances. For example, there is Elusive Wind. When you enter an enemy's reach for the first time during a turn, your next attack against that enemy has advantage. Additionally, attacks of opportunity have disadvantage against you. So that's a stance. That's one of the stance you can take. And the cool thing is, if you take this stance, you will suffer after you've done it. The stance will last for, I think it's about a minute. Yeah, it will last for a minute. After that, you will be exhausted for one level of exhaustion after the stance for 1 minute. So it automatically goes away after 1 minute. You don't need to take a long rest or whatever, but it's a cool mechanic. You take this stance, and after that you are you're kind of, you're exhausted. You're like, it's kind of like the barbarian who does that rage, that frenzy type rage in the player's handbook. After that, they have this level of exhaustion. I really like that, and I really like that there is rules for that in this. You learn one more available combat stance. In addition, you're currently employing a stance. You can change to another one at the start of your turn. So the this fighter gets, if I'm not mistaken, 3 stances. And then when they level up, they get access to more stances. And when they level up, they can access even to stances. They can change stance in the middle of a fight. I really like that. It's kind of like a battle master doing all kinds of weird stuff and picking new maneuvers. You pick your stances when it comes to it, which I think is really, really cool. Another subclass is for the Paladin, the Oath of Inquisition. And it is really odd that they put this in here because it kind of goes against what they are bringing in the book. Let me explain. The Oath of Inquisition for the Paladin is actually an oath where they believe that magic is only to be wielded by people who gain it from divine power, so the gods themselves or people who worship or are acting in the terms of the gods and then gain these powers by the gods. That's what the Paladin Oath of Inquisition believes in, and they think that they need to hunt down everybody who tries to cast spells or rituals or whatever. Now this entire book is about like getting elementals and spirits, casting rituals to get spirits inside your body, or to talk to a spirit, or to seek wisdom from a spirit. So it's all kinds of like weird magic you're doing if you're using this book. And then there is this Paladin Oath of Inquisition who actually is like, no, you can't, because that you're not allowed. You're not working for a god. You don't have divine powers. You shouldn't do that. And I think that's a really cool premise to have in this book, like something that goes against what you're bringing. Of course, there's more to it and everything, but it's just a cool idea to have this in here, and the artwork is just like really cool. And it actually has a really cool ability. It has a bunch of cool abilities because it's a freaking Paladin. Paladins are really cool. Mage Hunt. As a reaction to a creature that you can see casting a spell within 60 feet of you, you can attempt to interrupt its invocation. Make a charisma check with proficiency against a DC of 10 plus the spell's level. On a success, the creature's spell fails and has no effect. Now, this is a channel divinity thing, so it is not something you can do every day and every spell. It's not somebody who's casting spells, you're constantly interrupting them or attempting to interrupt them. That's not how it works. It is a channel divinity thing, so you cannot do it all the time, but it's cool. You are actually the kind of person, you're a paladin, you have divine powers, and you're like, you're not allowed to cast spells, which I think is a really cool thing to have in a book like this. Then, if they're done talking about these spirits, the different kind of spirits there are in the world, how you can become their host, how you can summon them, how you can communicate with them, they talk about spiritual binding, which is basically a mini crafting guide, and there are a bunch of new magic items. And again, the value of this book is amazing because it will only set you back $20 or something like that, and you get a bunch of new magic items. You get a bunch of new subclasses for each class in the game, so even for that alone, it is worth the money. But the spiritual binding is a like a small crafting guide if you're into that kind of thing. And what it does is there are spirits that just don't want a host, or they are not, they can't get a host, or there's different reasons why you are not able to tie yourself to them or become their host or create this bond with a spirit. But some spirits can be caught again in a Ghostbusters kind of way, and you have to cast a spell, Seal of Binding, against one of these spirits. Now, it's really hard to cast a spell against these spirits, but if you do, you're actually able to put that spirit kinda inside a otherwise mundane item, but like a piece of leather or cold iron or whatever, and you can then, that piece kind of becomes it becomes a being of itself. It becomes a sentient being of itself. It has its own opinion, it has its own thoughts, it's chaotic evil or it's chaotic good or whatever. It's still that spirit, but it is now inside an item, and you can use those items. And explaining this way shorter than that it actually is, but basically you can use those items in order to create magic items. For example, there are a bunch of examples here. For example, there is a mask of furious howling. You put on this mask and you can create this big howl, and everybody around you has to succeed on a wisdom saving throw or become frightened of you. There is a bunch of examples right here. There is a piece of armor, but again, these souls, or like the spirits of these spirits, really weird to say it like that, are still in that item, are still in that armor, and they are still the spirits they were before. They're just now trapped inside an item, kind of like a genie in a lamp or whatever. And then there is just like an entire section on magic items, and these are all magic items that somehow have something to do with spirits being bound to them during the ages, during the time they were built. And one of them is really funny. There's a bunch of them. There's the entire list right here. And I always like to get new magic items from books that I buy for another reason. So I buy a book for the spirits in this case, and then I get a bunch of free magic items with that, which is really cool, because picking magic items from books that my players haven't read is really funny, and it's really cool because my players, there's no chance in hell my players will know what is going on. For example, there's a really cool and funny example right here, which is the, let's see, the Mug of Manners. It's really funny. The Mug of Manners is basically a mug. You can drink beer from it, or ale, or whatever, and every time you drink from it, it will bite you in your lips for 1d4 piercing damage, which is really funny if your players do not know what's going on. Now, the thing is, you need to pick it up, and then before you drink, you need to, like they say it here, express good wishes to your drinking companions. So you need to say something like, here's to you, or bottoms up, or skull, or whatever, every time you drink from it. You take it and you're like, skull, and everybody's like, why does he keep repeating that? Because if you don't, it will bite you in your lips. I think that's a really funny magic item, and there's a bunch of cool magic items here, but this one just stood out to me to be funny because I'm so going to give this to one of my players. I have one player in one of my parties who plays a character who keeps drinking beer and everything, so I'm gonna have him find a mug that he otherwise does not know is magical. So the first time he drinks from that special looking mug, he will be bitten in the lips. Yeah, I will laugh my ass off probably, because knowing him, he will probably take like 20 piercing damage before even considering finding out what's going on. And that is basically it for this book. You get a guide about spirits, how they function in the world, how to communicate with them, how to summon them, how to become their host, gain their powers, and you get an entire guide with new subclasses that are tied into the subject. You get a bunch of new magic items that are tied into the subject. You get a bunch of new spells that are tied into the subject, and you even get a crafting guide that is tied into the subject. So basically you get this entire guide about spiritualism and animism, and there is much more in this book. I mean, it is 159 pages thick, and it is just really big. It is really thorough. The artwork is great. The writing is spectacularly good, and I just think it is worth more than 20 bucks. If they ask 30, 35 bucks for this PDF, I still believe it is worth picking it up. So make sure to check it out. Link is in the description below. Oh, until next video, bye bye.